Growing up in Wyoming, in a rural ranching community, growing up Catholic, I always said that I was pro-life with exceptions for rape, incest, and danger to the mother. That's a fairly common thought process for a lot of people who grew up in Wyoming. And what I didn't realize at the time, but I certainly realize now, is that I was always pro-choice. I just didn't have that language to articulate an understanding around the reality of the conversation.
We found out in 2019 that our daughter was diagnosed with a fatal heart condition.
I had a termination for medical reasons at 22 weeks. We chose induced labor and delivery, which is something people don't usually think of as an abortion.
We made the decision with as much information as we could possibly get between all the doctors and specialists and people that, cared for us. These decisions aren't taken lightly.
And we had to deliver her down in Denver.
We're gonna go down there, we're gonna induce, we're gonna, say goodbye and then have to come home. And then we had to come home empty-handed, so it was hard.
I had to call a funeral home and have the plan for what to do with her remains. And that was probably the hardest phone call of my life.
I've taken care of a handful of families with infants on services. Having a terminal diagnosis of a fetus is heartbreaking. 6-week abortion bans come way before the 10 to 14-week screening window where terminal abnormalities are diagnosed in the fetus.
The assumption for everybody is that every pregnancy has this potential to be this perfectly healthy little miracle, and the reality is it's just not the case.
A family may be forced to carry a pregnancy to term and then faced with putting their little one on hospice services once they're born. A very unintentional consequence that people don't consider when voting for abortion bans.
I would like more people to question their own assumptions about abortion and the people who get abortions, because it's people like me who have abortions who wanted to be a mom, and I did that to spare my daughter any suffering.
One of my fears is that with a 6-week abortion ban, providers are going to be much more hesitant to provide maternal care. We are already an incredibly rural state. Trying to get providers here is challenging in of itself. Putting additional restrictions and bans into place would be a deterrent for providers to move here.
The reason for the departure of OBGYNs is different from the departure of other specialists. Working in a climate where every decision you make may lead you to a criminal sentence is not where you want to work. It is affecting the number of doctors applying to residencies in OBGYN.
Right now, Casper only has 2 OBGYNs. A lot of moms aren't able to get in appointments, and even the moms who are, having to compete for time and appointments with an OB with other moms is a really defeating feeling. I woke up at about midnight on Friday, January 31st, which was about 4 weeks before my due date, and my water broke. Because of my shortened cervix, contractions came on very hard and very fast. My OB, who I had gotten to know very well over the last several months, had decided to move out of state as a better option for her family. With a high-risk pregnancy, you really want a continuity of care with a provider you know and you trust. And that was no longer an option for me. One of the options they gave me was delivering in Douglas. My due date was February 19th. I don't want to drive in the dead of winter 45 minutes down I-25 when I'm in labor. Because it was the middle of the night, I ended up having a locum doctor whose name I never knew and face I never saw deliver my baby.
Imagine if you have a doctor on your first visit who says, let's do A. On your next visit, they say, let's do B. And on your third visit, you see a third doctor who says, let's do C. That's got to cause some disquiet for the patients.
Moms continue to have to go to Douglas for their entire pregnancies. That means all of their routine care, all of their weekly check-ins, and delivery to have their babies safely. My daughter was healthy and everyone was safe, and I was one of the lucky ones.
Forcing families to access the care that they need hundreds, thousands of miles away from home, it minimizes the support group around them. It increases their trauma and their suffering for an outcome that wouldn't change. They're still going to lose that child. And you're just making them do that with less support.
My wife didn't go through this alone. It's important for men not to stay silent. We are able to reach out to our legislators. We're able to share our story as well. Having this choice is important for them and their family.
Moms have to know that they can safely have a baby here. We have to have healthcare systems in place in Wyoming that work for families, or this can't be a place to raise a family anymore.
Legislating healthcare is a very slippery slope morally and ethically, and it denies people choice and the ability to make decisions about their own lives.